So for tonight's table topics, I want to address the topic of polarization. Now, my goal is to avoid any arguments, which we're going to see if I can do that. But there are a lot of different definitions of polarization. I know that you've discussed one of them, which is political polarization. But polarization is also used to describe things in science and engineering and things such as light. So what I wanted to ask for the first person is, in non-political contexts, polarization generally means that waves could be traveling in the same direction. Things are coherent. But in political context, it means that things have been split apart. They're incoherent. They're in two different directions. Which definition do you use more commonly, and why do you think they differ? Steve?
Thank you, Roy. Immediately think of Maxwell's equations. Okay, you've got the E and H vector, the electric field and the magnetic field, and the cross product of those is the pointing vector. Okay, and so you've got two different directionalities, and the bifurcation of those. Immediately what comes to mind is polarization in glasses. How many of you have polarized sunglasses so that you remove the glare? And that's simply because you're removing a certain directionality. Light is coming in, and you're basically bifurcating those two elements of the electromagnetic spectrum, and you're actually separating out those that are oscillating in one plane versus the other. So that basically removes a lot of the glare. So that's what I think of when polarization comes to mind. I immediately think about the scientific aspect of polarization. And I think the idea of political polarization, well, let's just say that it's probably beyond my capability to comment on this evening. I think the origin of the word actually comes from the scientific community and very closely related to bifurcations by refringence, or certain elements, certain calcite crystals that naturally cause this splitting of waves, the splitting of the electromagnetic waveform, the electric field and the magnetic field, and it's something that I think I enjoy a lot more than talking about political polarization. So back to you, Roy, Toastmaster.
So beyond just politics, you can observe polarization in any kind of group dynamics. That could be people at work, people in a group like Toastmasters, sports teams, where you get two different kinds of attractors where people are pulled to one pole of something or the other pole. So contrary to what you normally think of, I want to know, in what ways can polarization within a team drive people to improve their arguments and ideas, leading to better results than you'd see before? Donald? Oh, you're speaking? I'll give that to Bill. Sorry, Donald.
Thank you for that question. When you have a group, because the people in the group are human, they will have differing opinions. There will be a bifurcation of positions that they might take. I know in Toastmasters, there are people that join Toastmasters because they would like to speak. But there's a bifurcation between those that would like to speak when they join and those that actually speak. As a scheduler, this drives me crazy. I would like to encourage you, for those that would like to speak and those that are assigned to speak, to bring together so that we have 4 speakers at every meeting. Thank you all.
Changing gears a little bit, talking about another kind of polls. In the early 1900s, people who went sailing generally did 2 kinds of trips. They either went to tropical kinds of regions to explore, like the Cook Islands, or they went all the way to the South or North Pole. So in 1911, Amundsen was the first one to explore the South Pole, a frigid, freezing cold expedition. But much before that, many people who'd explored tropical islands. If you had to pick an expedition, which kind of islands would you pick to explore? Which one of the poles? And can I pick you? Are you willing to go for today?
I would rather not.
Okay. David?
Thank you, Ward. I was about to write someone else on the vote counter. So the question was, which of the poles would I rather explore, the north or the south? Am I right?
Yeah, that worked.
Thank you. I don't really know what kind of wildlife exists on the North Pole, but I'm quite certain that penguins are in the South Pole. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, don't correct me on that. Let's just go with it. I don't think they're very good options, except I think in the North Pole you'd probably have the northern lights and beautiful views. The bifurcation of colors that would appear in the sky would be absolutely stunning. However, I don't think I've ever seen a penguin live. And I have seen some National Geographic documentaries on Netflix and HBO Max that shows a lot of interesting wildlife in the South Pole. Being from Canada, you'd think I'd like the cold. I don't, I hate it, so those are both terrible options. I was hoping the options would be somewhere warm versus somewhere not warm. But if I could see a armada of penguins in their habitat, maybe some polar bears, then I would definitely choose the South Pole. I'm sticking with that. Thank you.
I've heard anyone describe an armada of penguins before.
There must be a word to describe like a flock of penguins, but I don't know what it is.
I'll stick with armada. I like that.
Right.
So when I was a kid, I didn't understand how magnets work. There's a North Pole, there's a South Pole, so obviously I tried to cut them in half. Can't separate them. There's just another North and another South Pole. What did you not understand as a kid that still kind of baffles you now? Mark.
Thanks, Ward. Greetings, everyone. What did I not understand as a kid that still baffles me? This reminds me of that show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Which is actually one of my fears, because if I went on there, I'm sure that basic science questions, which we all probably should know, would just go over my head. And it's kind of not fair, because if you're a kid, then you've learned this recently, right? You probably learned this in the last year, the last couple of weeks, so they kind of had the advantage. But basic questions, sometimes some people do ask me, I don't know why, someone might assume that I know certain things, like, hey, so why is it that the sky is blue? I'm like, okay, it reflects, I think blue is reflected back into the air, whereas the rest of the colorways aren't. But other simple questions, right? Why is snow up here the way it is? Or I was in here once and someone asked a basic question of how air conditioning works. I'm like, I really should know this. I probably learned this at some point, but I couldn't tell you. So I don't know, bifurcation of ideas and intelligence there, but yeah, certain things, we all get those questions where it's like, I should know this as an adult, but sometimes you don't, and maybe that's just part of the process of learning as you go. Back to you, Ward.
Yeah, watching that show as a fifth grader was fun. It's gotten less fun as I've gotten older. So how can interpersonal communication or overall communication skills help reduce polarization within a group to make sure things get done? Shane?
Speaking, but I'll still try.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Alex, can I pick on you?
Sure.
Small crowd today.
Thanks, Ward.
Thank you.
Could you repeat the question for me?
How could interpersonal skills or effective communication help reduce polarization in a group to get things done?
So I think that communication skills within a group can help get things done, because not only will people disagree on ideas to their core, you get that a lot with watching podcasts nowadays. the bifurcation of ideas on any podcast that you watch. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a big fan of watching the Joe Rogan Experience, and he's always got people on his show where he'll disagree with or will share different ideas or what have you. I think that bringing in a group of diverse people with separate ideas will always be a good idea to I think mainly solve problems, because as with the entirety of the world, there's always so many problems that people just don't even necessarily want to get solved. There's so many people that are just closed-minded and don't want to hear solutions because they're on a one-track mind, and if you tell them one thing, then they will firmly believe that and won't listen to another. So I think with open-mindedness and a diverse group of people all speaking with the ability to go into a conversation with changing their minds, then I think that can help solve a lot of problems, and I think that the world would be a better place. So that's my answer. Thank you.
So in one of John Mayer's songs, Belief, he has a line that says, "No one's ever changed their mind from words they've seen on a sign." Is that true, or have you ever changed your mind from words you've seen on a sign? Lucille?
Have I ever changed my mind from words I've seen on a sign? I would have to say yes, I have. I do a lot of reading. I have bookcases and bookcases of books. So the printed word for me is important. I have an open mind to different thoughts and different thoughts and different information. I have an open mind. I love information. I love reading. I love looking at different things and evaluating them and just picking up something. I don't want to bifurcate one way or the other. I like to come to a middle ground on some things. So if I had to give an example of something that changed my mind, or that I learned something from something that was in print, a sign or something. I saw something that said, if you want to know what tomorrow will be like, that there was an easy way to do that, and that was to do what you want to do. You were the only way that you could predict. You could predict what tomorrow is, but it would be because of the things that you put out into the world by changing your circumstances, if you needed to change anything or going anywhere. So a lot of people, I hear people saying that they have a goal or they wish they could do such and such. Maybe it's write a book or change professions or do all these things. And they want to know, what does the future hold for them? The future holds for them whatever you plant in it. And so that's my answer.
Thank you, everyone, for speaking in table topics. Leslie, can I get the timers report, please?